There's another dealer change, so it's bomb pot time. We're playing 8-handed, and we each put in $60 pre-flop. There's no way to improve upon the last hole cards we received in this situation. We're dealt 7-3 suited in the hijack. The flop comes ace-7-4 with 2 diamonds and a club. We've got middle pair with some backdoor draws. Checks to us. I consider putting out a small semi-bluff because we have removal to sets and 2 pair hands, plus there are plenty of cards that'll help us improve in the instances that we get called. Also, if we get raised, we'll have an easy decision to fold. It's just too tough to get a bet through so many players. I check, the cutoff and button check as well. The turn is the deuce of clubs. It's the perfect card because we pick up the flush draw as well as the draw to the wheel. Checks to us again. I bet 300 is a semi-bluff. If we get raised, I might re-raise to rep 5-3, which we have removal for. The button is the only caller. He's the crazy opponent who's been involved in lots of all-ins. He's been caught attempting huge bluffs and regularly open limps. I mostly put him on a better club draw since he didn't bet the flop and isn't raising us on the turn. The river's the 9 of hearts. On this board, it's a total blank unless the button has 2 clubs with 1 being a 9. I'm actually pretty confident that we've got the best hand, but I check to give the opponent an opportunity to bluff. He takes the bait despite all the draws on the turn missing as he bets 920. People have been regularly calling him down with third pair and have been good. This is an even better spot to pick the opponent off than some of the other times that that's happened because he likely would have checked back all of his 1 pair hands that have value, and there are very few 2 pair combos that make sense for him to have. I call the large sizing, being nearly certain that we're about to see a bluff. Not the case. The opponent has 5-3 offsuit, turned the nuts, kept it, and got me to pay him off big time.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. How much?
920.
The one time the opponent actually has it, I get caught in the crosshairs to lose about half of today's profit. As silly as I feel about calling with third pair when we're up against the best possible hand, this player did such an amazing job with his advertising in previous hands that he deserves every dollar of value that he got out of me. We're at least still winning a little when we pick up Jack-9 offsuit after straddling to 40 from under the gun. Under the gun +1 raises to 120. Small blind calls. He's one of the few opponents at the table who plays for a living. Normally, it's almost all pros with maybe one recreational player. Not the case today. I call for 80 more to close the action. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes ace-7-6 with 2 diamonds and a club. Not too appealing. I wish that we could send it back because all we've got are backdoor draws. Small blind checks. I check. The ace could be scaring the initial pre-flop raiser. He checks as well, indicating that he probably has second pair worse. Or maybe, top set. The turn is the 8 of diamonds, giving us flush and straight possibilities. Small blind checks. We're going to have more flush combos than anyone else when we're defending the straddle and closing the action. Plus, we'll have all that 9-8 combos, which we have removal for. I rep all those strong hands, including some king-high flushes that we'll occasionally have, with a bet of 240. Under the gun +1 folds quickly. The small blind isn't quite buying our story that we have it. Good read, we don't. He calls. It'd be great to see a 5 or diamond come out one time. We're heads up. The river is another 8 instead. We've only got jack high. The small blind checks. My first instinct is to bet large to put max pressure on the small blind, who likely doesn't have anything too good after check calling on the previous street. But I go a different way, making a smaller bet of 560 to appear as if I want to get called, and I'm milking him with trips, a straight, a flush, or a full house. The opponent will almost definitely fold all high card hands containing 1 diamond or a 9. He may fold pocket 5s or 9s as well. He's taken a longer time than I'd prefer with this decision. He must have something with value. I may have torched almost 1,000 more in this hand. After 30 seconds, the opponent finally folds. We get the bluff through with jack high to get back on the right track. A few minutes later, we've got king 10 suited on the button with the straddle on. The hijack is the opponent that we just double barrel bluffed. He raises to 100. We can either call or 3-bet. One option is substantially more fun for the vlog. I 3-bet to 300. A few slightly better combos will fold to our re-raise. We take control of the pot, which is nice in case the opponent calls and both of us miss. Plus, we're in position with potential to make a big hand. The hijack calls for 200 more. We're going to see a flop. The dealer puts out Jack 5-3 rainbow. We don't improve, but we've got an over with backdoor draws. The opponent checks. We're going to be betting with almost every single combo that we 3-bet with on this particular flop. I bet 200. It's about 1/3 pot. I anticipate the hijack calling with a decent amount of combos, like all of his pocket pairs, whether or not they improve to make a set. The opponent does call, but I don't get the sense that he's that strong. My feeling is that he was genuinely debating between calling and folding. then just didn't want to fold for the small sizing. The turn is the ace of clubs, giving us the Broadway draw. The opponent checks. The hijack is a good player who's supposed to check raise that flop with ace jack. The fact that he didn't means I can rule out him having top 2 pair. He'll never have aces either. We've got very little showdown value, but if we bet, we can almost definitely get the opponent to fold all middling pocket pairs like 10s down to 6s that currently have us beat. I keep the pressure on with a bet of 600 to rep aces, jacks, ace jack, ace king, and ace queen. There are too many ways the hijack could be beat for him to justify calling. He folds. We likely got the best hand out of the pot. It's another successful bluff that allows us to win several hundred. Next we've got king 7 suited in the cutoff. It's good enough to open with. There's no straddle on in this hand. I raise to 60. The big blind calls. We've had some good battles today with him in 3 and 4 bet pots. The flop comes king 7 deuce rainbow. We've got an unlikely top 2 pair on the quintessential dry flop. There isn't a single draw out there. The big blind checks with almost nothing to worry about. I down bet to 40 just to entice the opponent as much as possible to call with garbage. The big blind calls. I like it. The turn is the 4 of clubs. We still have top 2. There's some straight draw possibilities now, but that's it. The big blind checks. We're cranking the heat up. I bet 140. There's not a ton of hesitation before the big blind starts going for chips. Maybe he has a king of some sort because he calls again. The river's the 10 of hearts. It isn't terrible because the opponent is supposed to have 3-bet king 10 suited pre-flop, and he hasn't missed a 3-bet against me yet, but he can still have king 10 offsuit combos. He checks. I'm going to assume our 2 pair is best, and that we're up against some other top pair, or maybe even worse hands that are calling me down because the opponent may not think we're going to be as strong as we are. I bet 400. The opponent snap calls. We reveal that we've got 2 pair. The big blind is disappointed because we got him. It's possible that he called very light and just had it in his mind that we were bluffing. I've clearly been representing strong hands more often than I've been getting them. There's also some chance that the opponent called with any other suited king, or king queen, or king jack offsuit. We get a good amount of value to be back up at 2,000 on the night. We run cold for a long time before picking up ace king offsuit on the button with the straddle on. A player in the cutoff posted 20. Because of that, I raised a little larger to 140. The guy who we just beat, who's been pretty relentless with his big blind and straddle 3 bets, 3 bets to 600 from under the gun. This may be surprising to some, but we're supposed to be flatting the majority of the time with ace king offsuit here. I call for 460 more to play heads up in position. If we can hit an ace or king, we'll have a surprisingly strong hand in a situation in which the straddler may feel inclined to blast off. The flop comes jack 8-7 with 2 diamonds. It's not picture perfect, but I like the 2 diamonds out there because if a third one comes out, we can rep the nuts since we'd have a key blocker. The big blind bets 600 again. We'd fold with no ace or king of diamonds in our hand, and we'll essentially be calling 100% of the time if we have 1 diamond. I call. Flush draws always get there when you only have 1 card of the right suit, and usually immediately on the turn, except in this instance. The turn is the 4 of hearts. It's a brick. Under the gun checks. This looks a little fishy. He's probably doing it for pot control with a hand like queens. Maybe he's doing it to trap us with aces or the hated jiggities. I'm going to commit to this flush draw act as I check back to see if the river is a diamond, and then I'll make my move on that street. Hitting an ace or king wouldn't be bad either. The river's the 7 of spades. We break our fake flush draw and end up with ace high. To make things even more annoying, the opponent overbets 4,400. He's not really supposed to play any hands this way. It definitely feels bluffy, but there's not a lot I can do. He'd probably be confident betting aces, kings, or more likely queens for this amount after I checked back the turn. He'd also have jacks full potentially, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if we're chopping or if the opponent has a worse ace high. We never get our opportunity to turn our hand into a bluff. I've got to fold. We lose the majority of the night's profit in that hand. I'm barely above even after being up a solid chunk earlier on. I've got some plans that are fast approaching. It's time to rack up a small win.